What is up? Jonathan Crain, another race breakdown. This is kind of a random one. This is just one that fit in with my work schedule. I just hopped on Zwift Power and saw what looked like it had a decent quality field. I'll get into the quality of that field a little bit later. As usual, I thought I was starting too hard here. Started, I think I'm about 400 watts. Yeah, right when the flag drops, a little over. And so I think I have the whole shot, and then realized that it's not just my pin. There's also these other two pins where riders are filing out from. So there was like 1 second there where I thought I had the whole shot and started to back off. And then I'm realizing how many people I'm still behind. This is one of those all categories start together situation. So I'm 104th right now, coming across the, I guess that's the banner for the edge of the pier or whatever, the start pin. That's when they start giving you a position. So this is not quite panic stations, but I mean, if you look at my power right here, I'm going pretty hard, and I'm still in 60th. I'm working my way up, but I know that someone's going to put the hammer down and try and split it early on. And, you could miss the move and have to do a big effort to get across. I would rather get up to the front while it's still all together like this, and I can basically surf kind of draft to draft to draft to draft until I'm at the front. It's a little messy, those starts. I think how they did that also was that start pin I started from was the farthest back on the pier, and then they started the lower categories farther forward, which I don't have a problem with. So I just hit my featherweight right there. We're on this 3% uphill. This is a course, so I didn't know a ton about what this course was going to be exactly getting into it, but I did know that we were going to pass a lot of banners for power-ups. So I got that one, figured I'd go ahead and use it after a pretty hard effort just to get position, and then still splitting. So I'm going to cover this because, like I said, I haven't really had a chance to check out like who's here, who's strong, what's going on. And so like it could be that these are the strongest guys and they're going to make this stick really early. I also knew that we're coming into this fairly technical section of the course right here. I think this is like one of the twistier sections of road in the game outside of the that portion of France that's like really, really twisty. This is one of the twistier sections of Watopia for sure, and it's also up and down. So the tight bends, you kind of lose the draft for a second, or you can, and then there's also all this up and down to break it up. So I wanted to make sure I was with that split. If you look up at the top left, the mini map, you can see we got kind of a little selection going here, and then there's some people trying to come back. I should have even, like when I keep sort of involuntarily hitting the front there, I should have put the hammer down a little bit more to make that split or solidify that split, I guess is what I'm saying. I'm still not totally sure what the lap is going to be. I know it's 3 laps of something, but 3 laps of what, I'm not totally certain yet. You can see we're still on the lead in on the left there. So hitting this, it does hit 8% for a second right there. So I have a pretty good feel for that up and down section that we just came through, and I am trying to punch on all those little uphills to maintain my momentum, which is something you really have to be in touch with your trainer lag. So I kind of know that it's going to be about like 2 pedal strokes from the time I put it down. Oh, and so to the left of me there, that's Kristen Armstrong I think that's Kristen Armstrong. As one of the 2020 riders. So I'm kind of taking stock of the group here, noticing who all's in here. We got a couple 2020 riders from the women's side. And then noticeably, we've got Max Steadman, who people have been talking about a lot recently.
Max Steadman. All right, Max Steadman. We'll speak about him later.
Because he was one of the few riders selected for the GB squad for esports, UCI Esports Worlds. He's on the Canyon DHB real life squad. You can see him on the back left there. He's got the little pro jersey next to his name. So I knew there was pretty good field quality here. You can see some of the 2020 jerseys, and that's the women's team, 2020 women's World Tour team. there's a few people who've made this group. So I'm kind of looking around at the selection, taking stock of who all's here. Again, I got another power up using another power up. I figured I'd gone pretty hard. I was definitely feeling it a little bit at this point, so I'm going to use that drafting boost on this. We're hitting a slight downhill here, I believe, right here. Yeah. I wanted to use that drafting boost where I would still be on this downhill so I could really back off. The more you're, especially on a false flat downhill like that, the difference the drafting boost makes is really, really big. You're saving a lot more wattage with that drafting boost. So that allowed me to sort of sit up and compose myself a little bit after a pretty ballistic first 5 minutes there. I'm noticing now we are on the official lap. We're not on the lead-in anymore. I wasn't sure. This is listed as Seaside Sprint, which is one, I believe that's maybe an event-only route, started as a bandit route. It's one that, like, I don't know off the top of my head exactly what all it entails, but I know this part of the map pretty well. So I got to take this first lap to, sort of get a feel for what the loop is and what the selective points are going to be. Go ahead and start thinking in my mind, like taking stock of maybe where to make my move or where others are going to make moves I need to stick, that kind of stuff. Speaking of which, I think somebody goes to the front and really tries to break it apart right here or just make everyone hurt a little bit. Yeah, the group is accelerating a little bit and we're kind of just lining up single file like happens in a real road race when somebody goes to the front and starts drilling it. So I'm at the very back of this group. Looks like we got 23 still on here out of, we had 100 and something to begin with. Not sure it's still showing us all of those. We might be too far up the road from some of them to still show up, or maybe people rage quit. I don't know. I am going to move up a little bit right here because I know it pitches up and you kind of don't want to have already given away some ground to the front riders. Basically, like if I'm on the back of that train and someone attacks from the front, that could be like a couple seconds they already have on me, or like, 5-10 bike lengths, which, on a climb at full gas could be hard to close, maybe even insurmountable. So yeah, you can see it's stretching out here. So I'm definitely taking note that this is potentially a dangerous point, is that little climb into the volcano. And it does look like we're going to stay together here. We got a little flyer, but everybody's doing a pretty good job of managing these little gaps. I want to make sure that if something does go, I'm there. So stand up and punch again on that little incline. Again, got to read the trainer lag and know when to push it and when to back off. So the lap counter here, at this point of the race, I'm thinking like, okay, maybe this is going to be the finish. So that's always an interesting finish because you have that uphill and then flat, and then the sprint is kind of uphill a little bit again. So that's one that is actually pretty decent for me because I can normally hang a little bit easier than some of the heavier guys can on that uphill coming into the volcano, and then sprint again with a little bit of pop. So that's a good way to go. I got this feather here, I believe. Yeah, I'm kind of taking stock. There's a few people dangling, but nobody's really, really hurting. Got Steadman over here to the right of me, that Canyon DHB squad. Apparently one of the 3 remaining British Pro Conti teams. Like I said, he's apparently the only one on the GB squad for Esports Worlds. It's done a significant amount of Zwift racing. So I'm guessing that he and the 2020 ladies, I believe most of the ones that we saw up here, they're all also doing the Esports World Championship. So it seems like everybody's out here boning up on their e-racing, trying to, remember how the platform works, all that kind of stuff, which is smart. I do think, Max may have some competition that's significantly more familiar with Zwift than he is. That might make it kind of hard for him. kind of sitting up here. This is always a point of the map where things kind of slow down and people start thinking about what they're doing a little bit, kind of catching their breath, because we're coming back into that more technical section. So I'm kind of getting an idea now, like, okay, here's kind of where we met up with it on that first lap. I think I understand what the lap is. We got a little bit of a flyer here. Again, I don't necessarily want to chase down the solo flyer as long as this group back here is staying together. I am going to just punch over these hills to make sure that we maintain some good momentum, getting set up to use my feather on one of these little uphills. This is a tricky spot to use a feather, though, because you don't want to use it in the wrong spot on one of these hills that's not quite long enough, and then the feather ends up running onto the downhill, because you don't want to be lighter on the downhill. So it's maybe not a great place to use it if you're not totally sure where you're at on the hill. So I think I save it for the sort of the final hill of this section. This is a good flyer here. This guy got some good time on us and held it for a while. I believe at some point through here, I started getting a little bit, not antsy, but yeah, you can see him punching. So this section, I do really try to anticipate that trainer lag. I know it's going to be about 2 pedal strokes from when I start putting power down to when the power shows up in my avatar. So kind of try to go ahead and start pedaling hard into the bases of the climbs, and then maybe if I'm gonna back off for the downhill, back off kind of like as I'm cresting, as I'm about to go back down. So I was thinking this might be a split right here, so I definitely want to be on the good side of it, trying to just stay tucked in the draft. And I do know it's going to go back down pretty significantly right here. I think I might have even hit a super tuck for a second. Yeah, we hit that 57. So I backed off, get a little super tuck right here. This is going to come back into play later. That is a pretty dangerous move, so I want to step on it and make sure I get across. I think we lost a few off the back right there. I could not have gone backwards much farther and still been in contention. So that super tuck was a clutch move, though. Coming from a cyclocross background, doing a lot of the short intervals, short hard, short rest, back-to-back intervals, I can recover pretty quickly, and that's something you don't get a lot of on Zwift. Zwift racing tends to be a lot of like threshold and sweet spot zone, just kind of consistently mashing the pedals, and then a few little sprints and VO2 max intervals, peppered throughout. So anywhere I can get one of those little rests, I'm gonna go for that every single time. Coming back through this Italian village, I forget I guess Italian village is what they call it, section, and then onto the gravel here. Nothing too crazy happening. This is where I'm going to try to find the back of the group and kind of chill out. So yeah, we're down to 11. I guess we've cut that group pretty much in half from where it was at this point last lap. So we are slowing way up, though. Not slowing up, but nobody's really drilling it right now, and I'm able to find a little bit of rest in here. I know my heart rate's not through the roof. It never got too high today. I think I'm carrying a little bit of fatigue I had a pretty big week last week. I did like 13 hours or something like that, and then I also skateboarded a little bit yesterday, which doesn't sound like training, and I guess it's not training, but it is pretty hard on me. This was a good flyer. Interesting how he was able to do that without like standing up and sprinting. I think when you can do it like that and sort of sneak away without your avatar getting out of the saddle, it doesn't set off the alarm bells in the same way. Again, I've got a power up, so I'm going to use it, especially knowing, we're going into the volcano where I'm going to get another one. So I'm trying to ride on Max's wheel across. I kind of figure if I'm on Max's wheel, I'm probably pretty safe, especially as he was like actively going across that gap. Interesting spot for a flyer, though. It does seem like everybody wants to go ahead and start lighting it up before we hit this climb, which is interesting. A lot of times on a course like this, especially like there's this right-hand turn and then you're going uphill, what would normally happen in my experience is like right here is when, it would just be completely ballistic all out every lap. But past 2 laps, it's kind of been the drag up to that point has been pretty on, and then this is hard. Don't get me wrong. Doesn't feel great, but it's not completely insane. It's not just like maxed out 100% effort. It's like a good hard tempo. Not really alarm bells. Again, I'm like not certain. Is this going to be the finish? What is going to be the finish here? Trying to take stock, make sure I stay in this group. I'll talk about my equipment a little bit. I'm using the Canyon Aeroad, the 2021, the new Canyon Aeroad, the one that they controversially put in the game, and it was the best bike in the game for a brief minute, and then they nerfed the bike. And nerfing is a video game term for taking an item and making it less effective than it was because maybe it's kind of unbalanced the game. So they did nerf it. It is no longer the best climbing bike in the game and also an aero bike, but it's still a pretty solid frame. And then I've got the Zip 808s on because it is a mostly flat course, and I figured I wasn't going to have too much trouble hanging on the little punchy sections, but I wanted to be saving a little bit in the wheels when we were going real fast on the mostly flat course. And I'm glad I did because I also figured this would come down to a sprint. I didn't think it finished. Again, I didn't fully know what I was getting myself into with this. I literally just had a short window of time to get something done, and hopped on Zwift Power for something that fit the bill, and this was it. But I didn't get really into my course recon like I would on something that was kind of a goal race. This is like a C or D priority race. Just kind of needed to get some hard pedaling done today, and this was a way to do it. Again, this is the spot where we always kind of have a little sit up coming through here because everyone knows what's coming, which is this super punchy section of the course with all of the turns and all of the little uphills. So I'm just mentally setting up for that, knowing that it's coming. I say we have a sit-up, but it does seem like someone is trying to drive it a little bit through this tunnel, maybe string it out. This was an interesting dynamic of this group, is that there seems like there was always someone who was not content to wait for the decisive feature. They would try and like 1K or like half a K out from the decisive feature, go ahead and put the pressure on, which I think is actually good for me. I think a more active group, generally, a group that's kind of like attacking more, I generally do better in a more active group like that, especially that compared to a group that's just like rolling a very consistent high wattage with a bunch of guys in the peloton. As a light rider, that really puts me on the back foot. So I'm a little farther back than I would like to be coming in here. I remember this lap hurting particularly bad, and I'm taking note here that it's like a little bit concerning when you're over threshold or you're hurting bad and you're not it feels like you're just barely stuck on the back. You're not making progress. So I'm going to try and shoot across this gap here. I'm worried that might be the split up the road. So you can see, timed that really well where I was putting down the most watts. My avatar got up and out of the saddle on that steepest bit there. I am trying to, again, time these rollers where I'm doing the most work. I'm not totally letting off the pedals on the downhill, but I am trying to do the most going up the steep part and then back it to something reasonable on those downhills. you're going to carry a lot more momentum that way. And you can see I did nail that group back. Now we're going to hit this steepest uphill part right here. I want to stay up here toward the front in case someone, this is another really good place to push the pace. And I believe this is me kind of clocking like, okay, maybe this sprint point down here is going to be, I think I went for the super tuck here and we're not going fast enough after that attack. And then I brought it back. Yeah, we're not quite going fast enough. We're doing 50 kph. You have to be doing 56 kilometers per hour on a greater than 3% downhill to get the super tuck. So I maybe could have caught it for a second there. But yeah, so this sprint on the other side of the bridge is going to actually be the finish. And I'm still at this point not totally sure, but I am clocking where the sprint arches are. And then I'm just going to keep my eye on the kilometers remaining. That blue bar in the center above me is the amount of the race we've completed. And then the blue number to the right of that is the amount of kilometers we have left in the race. So this is a course that plays pretty well for me as a like crit and cyclocross guy. It's a pretty short race. It's got these few little like selective punchy features. Grabbing a little bit of gel right there. This was a like lunchtime race for me, which I'm always going to do the race and then eat my lunch after rather than the other way. So I'm coming in a little bit under fueled, but that's definitely much better. You're not going to get anything out of eating a full meal and then jumping on the trainer immediately. All that food is just going to be sitting in your stomach and basically make you feel sick. So getting a little bit of gel in during this race was the only way for me to top the carbs up a little bit. You don't really need anything to eat for a race this short, but because it had been, 4 or 5 hours since I'd had anything, I just wanted to top up to make sure. I knew this would be a pretty intense effort, and it was. I may have not fully conveyed that this is a pretty intense race for me. It doesn't look like it right now because we're on one of the sections of the course that was always the most chill of this circuit for us. But my average, I'll show my average at the end, was pretty high. So while we are on this chill section, I'll talk about I'm trying to get ready for the Echelon series coming up with Restart Racing. We got the next set of the Echelon races over on RGT coming up with Tour of the Gila on December 4th through 6th, I believe. It's the first weekend in December. We've got 3 races over the course of the weekend, circuit race, and then 2 monster road races, one of which I think will be kind of a first in the e-racing discipline in terms of like the length, and the stage is going to basically mirror the real life Gila Monster stage. It's a slightly shortened version, but it's still going to be probably about 2.5 hours, which for an e-race is sort of unprecedented, especially at the like pro level that we're racing at. So it should be interesting. Once again, we got the pre-climb flyer going right here. Red numbers for a second, so he was getting after it, but everybody's kind of slotting into this draft a little bit. And this is, you don't have to worry so much as long as everyone's kind of staying in contact. It's when one of those gaps gets bigger where there's no draft, basically. That's when you got to jump across it. I'm going to use my weight to my advantage here and really smash up this hill, make sure I can stay kind of in the middle in contact here. Seeing a lot of red numbers across the board, and I'm realizing now, like, okay, we still got several kilometers, 3 or 4 kilometers left. We're not finishing right here, so hopefully it's not going to go completely ballistic up this next little kicker, this like right-left, and then it kind of kicks up, which that doesn't look like much of a kicker, but if people are really getting after it, and they have been getting after it up that entire thing, that can be the place where you come unshipped, actually. I've seen it happen, and it's happened to me several times where that's the spot where you come unstuck because the effort has been so hard for so long, and you can kind of let your guard down a little bit there. Luckily, that doesn't happen to me right here. Clocking what power up I got, because that's going to be my last one. So I got the truck power up, which not ideal. You probably want an arrow power up here, but I actually don't hate sprinting with the truck. The truck, when you use the truck power up, so the truck increases your drafting. Basically, you have to be, so this guy on the front using the truck is actually, he's doing nothing because there's no draft for it to be multiplying until he tucks in behind these guys. It basically multiplies the draft you're getting. So you can, if you're in the draft, do the same speed for less wattage. I actually like it for the finishes, depending on what kind of finish the race has, especially if we were finishing sort of the other direction, like over by the beach section, after the lumpy part we're about to hit. That's always it's like a downhill sprint. It's like downhill 2 or 3% before it flattens off. And the sprint always goes really early and it always goes really fast there. So that's a great place to use the truck to sprint, because faster you're going, the more draft you're getting. And so the more draft you're getting, the more there is to multiply. And also the longer the sprint is, like the earlier out people start sprinting, the more advantageous the truck is, because that power up, again, lasts a lot longer than the arrow helmet, which the arrow helmet just cuts your drag down. So the difference is the truck power up, once you're on the front, once you're the first rider, the truck power up's not doing anything for you. But the arrow helmet power up, when you hit the front, it continues to help you go faster, basically. So I know it's probably going to be pretty spicy coming through this section, so I'm trying to stay up here, maintain my position, and not going to let anything get completely away from me. I'm going to go ahead and kick a little bit on all of these uphills, regardless of what everyone else does. And this guy, I'm not even going to try to pronounce that name, Schwarzenegger, he was putting it down for a minute there. I knew that it was going to be like this, like people kind of just swarming over the top. And my move in this scenario is generally to just try and stay second or third wheel as people come over the top. You just shuffle back forward, over and over and over, and never lose position, but also never get stuck totally out in the wind. On all of these uphills, I'm preemptively going to start putting the power down, because if you wait for someone else to get a gap on you and then start putting the power down, you may have missed the entire incline, for one thing, because these are so short. But you also, there's the trainer lag of a couple of seconds, so that gap is going to get really big and you're going to lose the draft. So my plan here, what I'm hoping to do, is use the truck power up at the top of the hill. So it's going to be that sprint where it's the steepest and longest of these hills, then we go downhill, then hook a left for that bridge sprint is going to be the finish. Getting my mouse set up for the power up. Hey, does anyone use a Stream Deck to trigger their power ups? I was thinking that might be a good way to go, because you can see it kind of takes my head out of the game right here, that I have to reach over, hit the power up. So people seem to be going full sprint. I probably should have gone all in a little earlier, maybe lost the draft a tiny bit there, but this was a savvy move by me right here. I see that I'm going 60, so I just start coasting, get a little bit of a super tuck back into the draft, and then I know from right here that's 250 meters, that's full sprint. So 250 meters all out. Would have helped if I had a little bit more power up left. I wanted to use that a little bit later than I did. I think if I had had a power up here, I would have won the sprint. But third place, pretty solid, and beat Max Steadman. So that's pretty solid. Like I said, really good field here. Let's go to my Zwift power results. It's probably a little bit hard to see right here, but the big takeaway is that my normalized power was over 300 watts, so a little bit over threshold. And then my sprint was the best sprint, 15 seconds, which, not always indicative, because the sprint could be longer, sprint could be shorter, not exactly 15 seconds. But I did have the best 15-second punch of anybody out here, which I think showed in the sprint. So pretty solid result. So you guys may have noticed I haven't been streaming a ton. I've been outside, actually. I did a lot of threshold intervals outside last week, which was great. The weather here has been really good, and really committed to the Echelon series. And then I'm also trying to ride the ZRL when the team needs me or when I can. So that's just a lot of trainer riding. So I'm trying to take advantage of the nice weather while I can. And because of that, when I do these races, these random ones, I'm trying to get a little bit more out of it by doing these breakdowns or making a more specific video. I am planning to do an Alp to Zwift race, so if anybody knows of an event coming up in the next couple of weeks that's going to be like a well-attended Alp, especially later this week, I got a little time off from work. Also, my team has got merch, so check out Restart Racing, support us in the Echelon stuff. We've got merch through that. Throw it up on the screen right here. And thank you guys for watching. Let me know what you think of these race breakdowns. Appreciate it.